We continue with the conversation around coalitions. The governing ANC in Gauteng has for the first time in history failed to get an outright majority in the elections, managing 36.48%, followed by the Democratic Alliance with 26.63% and the EFF at 12.47%. Joining us to discuss what is now the main focus of forming government is columnist, political commentator and former Gauteng Premier Mbazima Shilowa. Mr. Shilowa, good evening and thank you very much for your time. Many have said these elections have ushered in a new era, resulting in a significant shift in the country's politics, though you in particular have moved away from active politics. But you led the ANC government here in Gauteng as Premier for 9 years. Firstly, your reaction to these results?
Yes, good evening. I think we've got to accept that the people have spoken. The question is whether politicians heard the message or not. And if they've heard it, what they are going to do about it. My approach is that we are too preoccupied with who should be in coalition with who. Obviously, then that leads to us saying who should lead the executive and who should lead the legislature. I prefer a situation in which you say it doesn't really matter who you partner with, as long as they've been elected by the people and they are in the legislature, provided you can be able to agree and publicly state, one, what is your broad macro social economic policies that you are going to pursue when you are in government. We're sitting with very high unemployment. What target are you going to set for us to be able to reduce unemployment? We've got zero economic growth. What targets are we going to set that will allow us to be able to move to between 5, 6, 7, 8%? How do we ensure that poverty and inequality that we have in our country is dealt with? If we are able to reach an agreement on those issues and table them before the country or province, before all the elections of leadership takes place, and hopefully agree on a body or bodies that would be the guarantor of that particular agreement, you should be able to go ahead with anybody.
But Mr. Shilowa, that would probably be the ideal setting, all things equal. But history has taught us and humbled many that it's not really what happens at the negotiating table. There are sometimes not those kind of level-headed, cool minds or conversations, because if we just look at the policies that some of these political parties had presented in their manifestos, they're starkly opposed to one another. So it becomes difficult just for them to even find each other at some point. So you're of the view that right now, you believe that these political parties appreciate this very moment, that what is needed here is for them to place their interest behind those of the citizens of the country.
I've got no doubt that the ANC, the DA, the EFF, at least among others, understand what is likely to happen if they are not able to reach an agreement, which is why you'll find that the ANC have said, we will talk to anybody. The AFF have said, we'll talk to the ANC, we'll talk to anybody, and we're making no public preconditions. The DA then saying, well, we'll talk to the ANC, but not to the DA. I think for me it's just a posture, because if the ANC was to say at a national level, what we want is a broad representative government based on percentages that one have received, say from 10% upwards, you will have to include the EFF in that agreement, or you then have to walk away because you think you can work with somebody that you vote with. I mean, we should not be fooled by what political parties say. In Parliament, they meet together. The DA and EFF have supported each other's motions. Same with the ANC and the DA. So, of course, they will walk away and then they will just say, no, we can't reach this or that agreement. but that would show that they have not learned what happened at local government level and how the voters have now said to them, you try it again, you will be wiped out of the legislatures.
Mm-hmm. Indeed, I must agree that most of the political parties have toned down in some of their demands. We've seen that the EFF in their press briefing, they stated that they will not dictate to the African National Congress as to whom they place as a leader. That is for the ANC to deal with. So there has been some level of toning down. But insofar as the MK is concerned, they have not. They've stuck to their guns and stated that they're not willing to have any negotiation or conversation with the ANC of President Cyril Ramaphosa. What do you make of just their posture at this point?
I just take it as it's a choice that they are making. It shows their immaturity. It shows that they are really, even though many of them have been in the legislature, but they're acting like they are new in this field. And then, of course, when people say, we don't want to be included, you leave them outside. All I'm saying is that don't exclude them by design.
Mm-hmm. Then let's just look at a possible ANC and DA coalition, because if we look at the numbers, it seems they could easily coalesce and form government. But how difficult would these conversations to a certain extent be? Because if we look at what the DA had said before the official announcement of the results, it was that they had non-negotiables. Among their non-negotiables being the NHI and the Bella Bill. And then if we look at Gauteng, when we speak of the NHI, we know that the current chair of the ANC has been a person who has gone out to the public, campaigned with this particular bill and stated to many citizens that post the elections, they'd be able to walk into a hospital of their choice. So one would think that they hold this particular position around universal access to healthcare very, very strongly.
Yes, we need to distinguish between hyperbole that political parties say during the election campaign. The DA knows that we need inclusive healthcare system. They know that that bill, it's now an act of parliament. The only thing that is remaining is the implementation date. That process is irreversible. And so it's just posture. Similarly, their position on that we don't need the minimum wage, we will scrap minimum wage. They will not scrap minimum wage because they don't have the numbers that they would need to scrap it. Same on broad-based black economic empowerment. The key issues is not what you wanted. If we wanted, I would have a farm, I would have a mansion, I would be living anywhere in the world where I want. That's not how the world works, and that's not how politics works. So,
Shilowa,
if I was
there's just a position of some that if they don't do, once in these coalition governments, if they abandon the wishes of the electorate, those that voted them in, they'll be punished in the local government elections. So do you think many of these political parties will forego whatever position they were sent with into those negotiation table?
Well, they will forego those because I know we call them non-negotiable, but you can always fashion an agreement on health policy. That includes the NHI. You can fashion one that includes public service. You can never say slave wages are necessary. In fact, even if the DA had a 60% majority, they didn't need anything, it would not be able to remove the issue of the wages because workers will take to the street, they will make the country ungovernable. So yes, that's what people have said, but I'm not bothered. I think that as they speak now, they're toning down on their positions. It's only us who are outside, who are trying to push them in this or that direction, who would say to the ANC, no, you are better off with the DA, because that's what the markets prefer. But that's what the markets have always preferred, the ANC. Where is the investment? Where are the jobs? So I'm not one of those people who believe people vote, markets decide on government.
Well, I must say, Mr. Shilowa, it's quite refreshing to hear a perspective that says don't panic. Political parties will find each other sooner than later. Thank you very much for your time this evening. That's political commentator and former Gauteng Premier Mbazima Shilowa there speaking to us.